My name is David G. Brown. Welcome to my exhibit. It's called Heroes, Saints, and Sinners, and it's my first solo exhibit here at the Museum of African American Art here in Los Angeles. The opening was in May, and it's been extended till December 31st. Exhibit. This is the first section of the exhibit. It's about the L.A. Phoenix, and this is my original character that I created after the riots in Los Angeles. This was actually my very first L.A. Phoenix book, and I got a grant from the City of Los Angeles Culture Affairs for it to help heal the city. And this got so much media attention that I was on CNN, I was in the LA Times before I had even finished the project. And so from all the media exposure, I decided, well, this must be something that I need to pursue. So a year later, I actually produced my original comic book series featuring the LA Phoenix. Now, the LA Phoenix is a African-American superhero who arose from the riots. And the whole premise of him is to show young people another way of dealing with conflict and violence. Has all non-lethal weapons and deals with community issues. Now, the first three books in the trilogy, the first book has an anti-graffiti theme to it, second one, anti-gang theme, and third one, anti-drug pro-educational theme to it. So as we move on, this was in 2003, where I actually created a comic strip using the LA Phoenix character, which ran in the Los Angeles Sentinel newspaper, which I worked for as a political cartoonist, and I'll elaborate on that when we get to the political cartoon section of it. So let me just take a minute to explain you the exhibit. The exhibit consists of three sections. The first section is the LA Phoenix, which is the character that launched my comic book cartooning career into a different trajectory. Originally, I came to Los Angeles to pursue animation. I worked in animation, I worked in advertising, doing storyboards, and after the Phoenix project, it brought me, it was like epiphany for me. Then I decided to pursue education and use my skills to enlighten and educate others. As we move forward, you'll see these are actually panels with the three characters that are featured in the three books. The first character was featured in issue number 1 was the Tagger. And the Tagger was basically defacing the city with a gang of taggers. The second book featured this character, was called Gang War. And he's a gang leader who's taking young people and taking over their minds and controlling them, in negative ways. And the third character, he's called Rigor Mortis. Now, Rigor Mortis is the drug dealer. So he represents the evil with drug dealing and how drugs can take over, one's life. And these are two more pieces, artifacts from the LA Phoenix. This is the original cover from the very first issue of the LA Phoenix, which sold out, and it was a huge success, and it's really considered like a cult comic book in the comic book industry. And this was actually the third book, and I was experimenting a lot with digital. A gentleman by the name of Jeff Gaddy actually created the concept and used Illustrator to do this cover illustration. So now we move on to the second section, which is, I call a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Now, a little bit of this, a little bit of that is different artwork featured from my career as a graphic designer and a publisher. And this was a catalog that I designed for the Auto Club of Southern California. And this was for an exhibit called Faster, which documents hot rods, the whole evolution of hot rods. Hot rods began as a hobby for engineers that worked in the aerospace industry. So they understood rockets and technology in terms of combustion and speed. So they applied that knowledge to cars. And so basically the hot rod industry really started out in someone's garage. And so this exhibit documented how that whole industry evolved. And I created the catalog that went around along with the exhibits for that. Intersection South Central. This was a partnership between the Auto Club of Southern California and the California African American Museum. The whole premise of the exhibit was they took photographs of intersections throughout South Central Los Angeles and that were taken in the 1920s. And then they hired 7 photographers, contemporary photographers, to take pictures of those same intersections in 2006. And so in some cases you see how different the city has changed, and in some cases you see how it hasn't. So this was the cover of the catalog for the book and the featured image for the exhibit, which was at the California African American Museum. So I designed the logo. I also designed this image that represents the exhibit. So what I did was I took, using Photoshop, I actually took pictures of both of those, the pictures. One picture was from the 1920s, one was from the mid-2000s, and I combined them to make the transition showing, you know, we're going from this historical content to present day. And I also wanted to mention that with both of these, actually I won an award for this one, American Graphic Design Award for the Faster exhibit. And then for this exhibit, I won American Graphic Design Award and winner of International Davy Award. This was, I did some work with Los Angeles International World Airport, and I had a program. It was called Passport to Art, where I taught young people about art and aviation. So I combined those two elements. And out of that program, I had students actually create a book, and we also create folders. So this is an example of a book that I created with the young people from that community around the airport. And the whole premise of the book was to have young people understand what to expect when they go to the airport. You know, security, why they have security, so they're not intimidated or afraid of going to the airport and the airport experience. This particular piece of artwork was a comic book concept that I did for the Roseanne show. And the whole premise of it was that in this particular episode, one of the daughters wants to be a comic book artist. So she runs away from home and goes to Chicago to a comic book convention. And so she has a comic book that she created, which they showed on air for maybe a minute. And the whole idea was, I sat down with some of the writers from the Roseanne show, and we came to this idea there of zombie high school. And if you zoom in a little bit, you can kind of see how the whole concept of zombie high school, you have a cheerleader that's a zombie's coming out of the locker, and then we have, she attacks her, but barely misses her. Then we have a zombie that's eating brains. We have a two-headed principal representing evil. We have the cafeteria where you have body parts of students being devoured. And in the last panel, you have a basketball team with a bunch of weird zombie monster characters. So it was a real fun project. I had an incredibly tight deadline to do it. And it was just something that me and the writer sat down and decided, well, you know, this would be fun to include it. And I was actually invited to the actual screening of it when they filmed it, and got a signed script from all of the actors, and so it was a really wonderful and fun experience. This was a book that I created in 1998 with a mini grant from the NAACP, and the Anti-Smoking Coalition. There was funds available, and there was a Prop 99 where the cigarette companies actually paid into grants to help people, to show people not to smoke. This particular book was designed to specifically target African American teenagers. And so I sat down with some young people with a focus group, and we actually created this book using some of the characters that they designed and some of the concepts that they had. And this was distributed throughout the community. This was actually one of the pieces of artwork that was featured in, I did a book called The Watchtowers, Tales of a Vision, which talks about Simon Rodea, who built the Watchtowers, and how over 34 years by himself, he put together this tremendous piece of artwork, and the determination and vision that he had to make that happen. So I did do a book in 1999. It was called Simon Rodea's A Tale of a Vision, about the building of the Watchtowers. This is a book that I did called Hip Hop to Bebop, which I did it for the Jazz Mentorship Program. And the Jazz Mentorship Program goes around to schools and teaches young people to appreciate music, and especially particularly jazz. So this was a really fun project. It was also bilingual, and I ended up doing a second run of this. This was also a grant that I got from the City of Los Angeles Culture Affairs Department.